Hi there, I'm Ryan, a technician at 4x4 AT here in Leeming Bar. Today I'm going to be showing you how to install the Alpha XS-T onto the 2025 Isuzu D-Max. Now, to do this amazing install, these are the tools that you're going to need. Impact driver to speed things up, torch, soldering iron, wire strippers, tie wrap cutters, electrical tape, tie wraps, soldering, a PH2, 10mm ratchet spanner and a trim tool. So this is how you're going to receive your Alpha Canopy in an upright box. We're going to check the box for damage. If there is any damage, we need to make a note of it on the consignment note as well as inform the driver. Ours is in good condition, so we're ready to move on to unboxing. Now that we remove the cardboard from the canopy, we're ready to start unscrewing the canopy from the frame. We do need to put some protection down to protect this bottom face along here. So I'm going to use a bit of foam that I have here, use polystyrene, just something that's not going to damage that end. Down either side of the canopy is two metal bars. Both of these metal bars need to be removed before taking the canopy off the pallet. Leaving them on will cause damage to the canopy. It is written on the side of them to remove them. Now we've got both the bars off, we're ready to unscrew the canopy from the actual frame. Take note that I picked all the screws up. Make sure we don't leave any on the floor because we don't want to get punctured tyres on our new pickup. So we're going to start with the bottom ones and then work our way up. So we'll move to the next level up. Now, lastly, we're going to do the top ones. The canopy is going to come backwards, but don't worry, it's not going to fall over. Now we can go back round to the front and we're going to pull the canopy off to one side. Now the only brackets that are left are just attached to the canopy, and to remove them we're going to offset the canopy. To help offset it, I'm going to use the bars as for leverage to hold it and then move it to the side. Now we'll go back round the back of the canopy and remove them brackets. So we have the 4 brackets on. We're just going to fold the seal forward. And on the back of the seal there is some 3M tape which is just ready to pull off once you've pulled the bracket off. Do that, and then I'm just going to use a pick to pull the red tape off. There's one on the inside and there's one on the outside. That, line our seal up and then push that down. We're going to repeat that again another 3 times. There is a white strip along this foam that runs along the bottom. We're going to remove that while we're here. I'm just going to take the keys off, twist that and pull, and then remove your tie wrap. And then we're going to take the fitting kit out. They're always strapped to the pallet like so. Use a knife and pull that out. We'll pop that to one side until we need it. From this point now, we're ready to lift the canopy onto the vehicle. This is a 2-person lift. Prior to that, we're just going to use some soapy water to go along the side of the bed, and that will help lubricate that to allow the canopy to be able to move freely on the bed when we come to adjust it for left, right, forward and backwards position. So I'm just going to grab Lewis now and then lift that canopy on. Before putting the canopy on, it is best to leave the tailgate down. This is so we can open the door and it's easier to put on. The best way to lift the canopy up off of this pallet is to lift it one hand underneath and one at the back. You lift that up, lift it straight and then onto the bed of the vehicle. Now that we've got the canopy on, we're ready to position it for left and right, and then we'll do lift the tailgate up and we'll do forward and backwards. So when I say left and right, is what I'm meaning is we look down the side of the truck, down the bed, to eye the front position of the canopy and the back position on the canopy as well. This is so we have an even line down the truck on either side. So I'm happy with the left and right position. I'm now going to move on to the forward and back position. To do that, I'm going to raise the tailgate and then use this seal along here to get that position right. That's so the canopy is not too far forward and not too far back. We do want this to seal against the tailgate to stop the ingress of water. So looking at this seal is getting crushed, so we need to bring the canopy further back. I'm now happy with the position of the canopy for forward and backwards, left and right. So when I look down here, this center part of the seal is not being crushed and bent on itself. The door closes nicely. Now we're ready to move on to clamping. So the box that we removed from the crate contains the clamps and the wiring loom. So we'll unpack that now. In the kit we have 6 clamp covers, wiring loom, some paint protection tape for the tailgate, some spacers, and finally the clamps. For now, we're just going to pop the wiring loom and the clamp covers to one side and just focus on the clamps themselves. Now we have 6 clamps, 3 either side, as well as 6 spacers and 2 screws for each clamp. I'm going to use the spacers on these clamps, but I'll show you why we're going to use them. So I'll jump in the car and we'll get cracking. Now, as I said before, we're going to position the clamps as far forward, as far back as we can, and then the middle ones go in the middle of the bed. I'm going to position them first and then we'll move on to tightening them down. On both sides of the canopy there is some threaded inserts in this rail. We need to position them, so we'll send them all the way to the back, one to the middle and the other one to the front. And this is where our clamp screws into. So the wiring for the canopy is on the left hand side, and that is screwed to one of the keyways. So we're just going to remove the screw from there first. Now to fit the clamp, we're going to use the spacer. So the spacer goes in at the top. Our screw goes in each hole. We lift that under and then over. Then we screw these in. So I'm going as far forward as I can and then slightly back so it's not sat against the liner. So we're just tightening them so the clamp doesn't move left or right. Now you can repeat that another 5 times. Now that we've got our clamps positioned, we're ready to start tightening. To tighten, we're going to start in one of the corners. In this case, I'll start here and I'm going to go across, and then I'm going to go across there, down here, across here, and then finish here. So I'll do that once and then we'll go around and nip them all up. Again, just to make sure that they're tight, but they don't want to be overly tight. Now I'm going to go around one last time, just nipping each one up in the same order that I did before. Now that that's done, we can fit the clamp covers. There are 6 clamp covers, 1 for each clamp. Now that that's all clamped on, we're ready to move on to the wiring. To do the wiring, we need to run it up the back of the light, and to do that, we need to deepin these plugs off of here. So on the Deutsch connectors, we have a double pin and a 4-pin plug. To do the double pin, we put our long nose pliers on here and we pull that part out, and then on the 4-pin one, put our pliers and pull that out. So now we actually need to pick part of the plastic in here for the actual wiring to come out. So again, we'll start with the double one, slide in here, we lift a piece of plastic and we pull that out. Same again on the other one, like so, and then pull the rubber O-ring off. And then same again on the 4-pin, you can see the plastic in there, pull that and then pull the wiring on the opposite side. Don't worry about the colour order, we're just going to match it up with the wiring on the canopy. Now we're going to tape them together and then pass them through the back of the light into the tub. Now that the wiring's taped up, we're ready to remove the light. To do that, we have 2 Phillips on the side and a plug underneath. The 2 Phillips, one at the top just here, and then one just down here, and the light comes out sideways. Now we'll go underneath and unplug the light. So this is the plug that we're looking for. We'll have to use a trim tool to lift that section off the body, and then pushing in this tab just here, you'll hear it click, and then we can separate it. Now we're ready to take the rear light out. Pop that to one side. Now we'll grab our wiring. Now this section here is the part that we're going to bring up through the bottom. So look in here, we want to go where the original factory wiring was, and then come up and we go through here and we come out of the tub in there. So we're just pulling enough through that this part will thread into the canopy, and that we have a nice clean loop here. So I'm good there, so I'm going to take this tape off and repin our plugs. So I'll put our rubber O-rings on the loom first. So I'll grab our double one here and then our 4-1, and then reassemble the actual plug up here, matching the colours to the corresponding colours. Now I'll do our double one first, and line that up with the double plug, and then make sure I've got these the right way around, and then clip them in. You'll hear them and you'll see them, so if you look down here, both our plastic tabs have engaged, and then we can refit the orange part, and we'll do the same on the opposite one. Same again, just line it up with the top of the plug, making sure your colours are all the right way. We'll now plug them in and push the cover into the canopy. So once done, this is how it should look. It's free flowing and it's not jagged and it's not pulling on itself. Now with that being done, we're ready to jump out of the truck and move on to the rest of the wiring. Now we're going to move on to soldering in the third brake light of the canopy onto the vehicle's tail light. That's the yellow wire, and that is going to solder to the red wire. So we're going to cut this protective tape and expose that red wire and then solder the yellow wire to that. Now I'm going to strip the red wire that's on the 3-pin plug and then bring this over to the third brake light wire. I'll just take a bit off that. So we've exposed our red, and I'm going to grab our yellow now and wrap that round there. It is awkward holding the light, but we do need to do it. Now I'll put some electrical tape around that to protect it. Now we can refit the light, put the plug back in and refit it. Pop your wire back down where it was before and then fit the light. Remember, the light goes in sideways, so we need to go back a bit first and then in there. Now we can refit our 2 Phillips. Remember, one at the top, one at the bottom. Now we can reconnect the light to the vehicle itself by going back underneath and connecting those 2 plugs. Clip them 2 together, making sure you listen for the click, and then reposition it back to the vehicle. So as we can see, the wiring is all still ravelled up together. We need those 2 to come together to make it life easier to run it down the chassis. So I'm going to pull it tight and pull the other one tight, and then use some electrical tape to tie them together every so often. Again, that'll just make life easier when we're running the wiring down the chassis. Now, as we've taped this together, this now becomes a manageable loom to be able to run down the chassis, and is all we're going to do is exactly that, run it down the chassis following the factory loom coming out at the back of the front wheel arch. So we'll start at the back, moving our way forward. Now we've run the wiring down the chassis, we're out at the front wheel well. We're going to now pass this up through the wheel well into the engine bay. So we'll pop the bonnet now. Now I'll go down here and pass the wiring up against the frame. So we're going to bring the wiring up, and it's going to be as close to the wing as possible between the body and the brake lines. So it's right in the corner, so I'm just going to reach down and grab that. Now we've got all the wiring loom up and into the corner. As you can see, there is quite a lot still there. I'm going to cut all the tape off and explain what's going to go where and what we're going to do from there. Now from this point here, I've separated off the 2 battery terminals from the central locking and the heated screen. The central locking and the heated screen are both going to go through the firewall and into the passenger footwell, and the battery terminals are obviously going to connect straight to the battery. So I'm separating the 2 so we can split them off, and then we'll tie wrap them up once we're happy with their final location. First of all, we have our main loom that we've just run up. This is going to follow the factory loom, which runs round the side of the engine bay, down behind the washer ball, and then comes out near the battery, which is exactly what we've done with the 2 battery terminals. They go underneath the washer bottle and come out the front of the battery. So we've just got this to tuck into the corner. Lastly, we have the central locking and the heated screen. The heated screen being the green wire and the central locking being the white and the brown wire. These two wires, or two amounts of wires, are going to go through the firewall and into the footwell, which is where we're going to cut these down to length, but the rest of it we're just going to keep at the same length and tie wrap it up and out of the way. Now the bung that we're going to pierce to get through the firewall is just behind this tank. There's the engine loom which runs along the firewall. If we just follow that, and then it goes just down here, and we can pierce that with our knife and then pass the wiring through this way and pick it up on the opposite side. There is two bungs down there, but it's the one that you can see just behind this tank. So the best way to pierce a bung, I'm just going to use my knife and just go along the top of it. Don't go near the actual wiring itself. We just need to nick it to put a hole through it. Now the easiest way that I find myself to pass this through the firewall is to electrical tape a tie wrap to the end of the loom. I'm using the heat screen loom just because it's one on its own. I'll now post this through the firewall and pick it up at the opposite side. To aid me getting this loom through the firewall, I'm just going to coat the outside of the loom with some glass cleaner. You can use soapy water. Now we've come round to the footwell, and I'm going to pull the excess through of the heated screen and the central locking. Now we've got all the excess through, we can go back and connect to the battery. We're going to connect to the battery now, so when we come to do the central locking down here, we make sure that the central locking is locking when the car is locked and unlocking when the vehicle is unlocked. So we're ready to connect to the battery, and to do that we need to take off this cover on the positive side. So we do that by lifting this up, taking that, and then grabbing a corner, and that will come off. So I'll start by doing the earth first. I'm just going to hold this down and take the nut off so the car is never disconnected. Now we'll go over to the positive terminal. Same again, keeping one of our hands on the terminal to make sure it doesn't disconnect. Now we can refit the positive terminal cover, like so. Now the excess of the loom that is now spread about the engine bay, we're going to tie wrap that up, and then we are done under the bonnet. Now that that's all done, we can close up the bonnet and move to the inside of the car. Now we need to get behind this panel here. So to do that, we need to take this lower panel off, and then there's a little clip down there that we need to unscrew. This simply pulls up towards you, and the plastic screw just here. We pull the weather strip up, and then this panel will come out towards you, and then pull. So our central locking and heated screen feeds are behind here. To do that, we need to lift this lever up and take this cover off. When we lift this lever up, the car's going to beep. Don't worry about that, it's absolutely fine. So push this tab in, lift this up, then put your finger under here and pull this cover off. Now we're going to do the central locking first and then the heated screen after. So our central locking wires are on the second block up on the top row. So 1, 2. Then on the top of the second block up, we have a white and a brown. The white is in the top left corner and the brown is in the top right corner. So that's one here and this brown just here. I'm going to remove some of this insulation or the protective cover that's around the cables to expose more of the loom. We want to do our joins further back here, and that is just in case we break the wire, we still have length to attach. So I'll pull some of this up and then find my wires, make sure that you follow the wire from the block round to here, because there are other wires of the same thickness in there and the same colour. So just make sure you're 100% sure that you do have those two white and brown wires. Now I'm just going to get my wire strippers and strip those. Now we can see we have both of those stripped. Now I'm going to grab the rest of the loom that we've pulled through the firewall and cut that to a rough length. So to get the length that we need of the wiring that's left, we're just going to follow the loom that came through the firewall, and then we're going to come across here, come down here, and we have a nice arc into that, and then we'll just cut off the excess. Now I'll cut my wiring. The heated screen goes on the bottom plug and the central locking goes on the second plug up, so we don't want it need to be much longer than the actual box. So roughly about that length there. Discard the excess. So now I'm just going to cut some of this shroud off to expose both the wires. So green being our heated screen and the brown and white being the central locking. Now I'll just take a bit off there. Take a bit off each wire. So like I said before, we have white and brown on there, but we do also have brown and white on the actual canopy loom. It's white to brown on here and brown to white on there. Now that central locking wires are wrapped around there, we're just going to solder them. Make sure you put something protective down here, so in case any solder does fall down, it doesn't burn the carpet. Now we'll just put electrical tape around the two, making sure the two are not making contact. They want to be done individually. Now we're going to move on to the heated screen, that is the green wire. Now we're going to go to the first block, and on the top row in the top left corner there is a yellow wire. We're going to solder to that one. Again, pick that out and follow it back to make sure that you do solder to that one, because there is another yellow wire on that same block. Now we can put the cover back on there and close this up. So now we're ready to refit the panels that were along here. So we'll start with the front one, just pull the weather strip back up. Is to go forward and over that threaded bit that had the plastic nut on it, in the side there. And then finally the little kick plate down the bottom. So we've finished with the wiring now. We're ready to go under the vehicle and tie wrap up the loom. We want to tie wrap to the factory loom and not to any moving parts. any fuel lines or any brake lines. So we'll do that now, and then we'll do the finishing touches on the canopy. Now that the tyre wrapping's done, the last thing that we need to do is to apply the tailgate protection tape, which comes in the kit. To do this, we want to lift the tailgate up, close the canopy door, and we want to use some masking tape to mask out the area of this seal that runs along here. I'm going to do about 5 mil below that, just to make sure we've got good protection right the way along. Now, what we're going to do is lift the tailgate, and we use this to do our line, to follow the line when we do the tape. Pull off about 4 inches of the tape. And just follow your line across the tailgate. Now I'm going to go from the middle and work my way out to the sides, and then just push them bubbles out. Now that that's on, I'm just going to cut the excess off and pull my masking tape off. This completes the install of the Alpha XS-T onto the 2025 Isuzu D-Max. Thank you for watching.